recording now. We are live on Facebook. So good evening to everybody, and thank you for coming along to our, which is our third author event from Exeter Library virtually. And thank you, Sarah, for coming along this evening. Sarah is going to be talking about her latest book, which is called Little Disasters, and came out on the 2nd of April, which was right in the middle of the lockdown. So Sarah, how was that? And welcome along.
Lovely to be here. I stupidly haven't got a cover to hold up because I've been giving them all away. So I'll have to try and find a printout or something of it. So I think lockdown happened on the 23rd of March, didn't it? And
yeah.
It came out on the 2nd of April, which was 10 days later. So absolutely the worst time, really, that it was. I think anyone publishing in this time, but you know, quite a bad time. And I had, I think, 8 events lined up, including Exeter Waterstones in the 8th of April, and 3 festivals as well throughout the summer, which were quite a big deal. And obviously they all had to go. Obviously you can't go to a bookshop. So my hardback sales are not very good because you can't get them from a bookshop. You can get them. You can get it from Waterstones online or Amazon online, or Blackwell has been brilliant. But everything's taking, you know, books aren't essential, so they're taking a long time to arrive. You know, they're taking 10 days, 2 weeks to arrive. E-books are doing well, and you were just saying that library books.
Yes, definitely. Yes, by sort of, you know, hundreds of percent.
Books on libraries there. So what I just keep thinking as well, it's had really good reviews, and you know, it'll come out in paperback, and hopefully when everything's back to good, because I can do library 99% like that. But what's been, to answer your question a bit more specifically, what's been good about it is that as we're all adapting to different ways, I've been doing lots of virtual events like this.
Yeah.
And people have been really collaborative and helpful. Other authors have really embraced technology. I'm not very technological, but there's an author called William Shaw, and every weekday at 4 o'clock he has a panel with another author, and he does on a Facebook Live with another author. Yeah, so he had Ellie Griffiths last week, I think, and he had me yesterday. Sometimes he has 4 people. He's had Callie doing a panel. Done something called My Virtual Literary Festival, which... Oh,
yes, I saw that, yeah.
I did an interview with an editor and a debut novelist, that they put an Orion editor, because our books were similar. A writer called Nikki Smith, that's with her head, and that was put on their YouTube channel. I'm doing an Instagram Live, I've done a Facebook Live with Catherine Isaac. It feels like it's slowed up a bit now, but then I've got to this week. Certainly at the beginning, it felt like it was a full-time job trying to... You know,
yeah, I bet. And it's quite tiring, isn't it, doing it online?
And I'm 47, and it kind of feels like my brain is having to... My kids can do it really quickly, you know, and I have to ask them about 3 times how to do it again. But it's good for us all, isn't it, to learn to do that.
Oh, definitely, and I think we've seen that with our library staff, is that they've embraced the change so well. You know, we've been doing online battles and rhymes and story times, and it's been a huge and a really quick learning curve. But yeah, it's interesting to see how the world has changed and how we're all carrying on.
Yeah. I think if you're quite sociable and you want to do things like, you know, language lessons and music lessons, or chat to your friends, then you've got to do it, really, haven't you? Otherwise you're...
You have, yeah. So about the book, did you want to say a little bit about the book and the premise, which is particularly poignant this week, with it being Maternal Health Week? Yes, week.
That seems to come around very quickly, actually. I hadn't really capitalised on it, but I saw some hashtags around it yesterday. Yeah, so it's about, I say rather flippantly, it's about motherhood and madness, but really it's about the darkest reaches of motherhood, about judgment and about friendship. But more specifically, it's about postnatal anxiety and maternal disease. So it sounds really bleak, but I hope at the end it's uplifting as well. And I think it's quite pertinent at the moment because it's partly about the claustrophobia of being at home with small children, and actually your sense of identity, your sense of self, and the need to check up on other people, I guess, to check that they're okay. And I think that's something that's quite resonant at the moment as people are, you know, what are we in, week 7 or 8?
Yeah, 7, I don't know, I've lost count.
And certainly for those of us who are homeschooling their kids still, it can feel like quite a precious environment. I think we were talking about connection through Zoom. We all need to that. So do you want me to say how it starts off?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, I mean, it's so it's quite a move away from your sort of your first 2 books, isn't it? So for people who don't know your work, your first 2 books weren't thrillers, but The Anatomy of a Scandal was, and this one is.
So it starts with a affluent, experienced mother of 3 who turns up at an A&E department on a Friday night, late on a Friday night in London, busy trauma hospital with a baby with a bang to the back of her head and a story that doesn't add up. And the paediatrician on call just happens to be one of her friends from her antenatal group. And this paediatrician Liz has got a professional judgment call and try and work out what's happening. And the story is told partly through Jessie's point of view, and we discover that she's holding a lot of information back, and we discover that she's sort of going to some quite dark areas. Liz, the paediatrician, has got to make this judgment that's at odds with what she feels about her friend, and Jessie's husband Ed, who works really, really long hours and realises that he doesn't really know what's going on with his wife. And there's a sort of subplot set in the 80s, a little bit of, I've got to get a bit of Devon in each novel, so it's and the point of that is really to sort of flag up that hopefully our appreciation or our understanding of maternal mental health has improved since the mid-80s. Yeah, so the point of the Dartmoor is just, I wanted somewhere that was sort of quite geographically isolated, certainly in the mid-80s as well. And I can imagine that if you were living without transport, you know, down a really steep bank to Devon Lane, then you might feel a bit. Yeah, so that's the premise. And the link, I guess, to Anatomy for the Scandal, which is this one, which was, as you say, more of a psychological thriller, but a courtroom drama as well, is that Anatomy had a barrister, a female barrister as a main character, who has to make this professional judgment that's going to impact on lots of people's lives. And I wanted to write another woman with that sort of authority and responsibility. And so I had a break from doing law, and I decided to do a paediatrician because I thought actually she has to make this safeguarding decision that's going to have a massive impact.
Yeah, that's quite a difficult thing for her to do, isn't it? In the book, it's I don't want to give too much away for people who haven't read it, but it's a really, I was like, oh, what would you do? It's a real what would you do moment.
Well, I think actually for her, the protocols for hospital are quite obvious, and my husband was saying, you know, according to the trust protocols, what you have to do. It's quite obvious what you have to do, and obviously your duty of care is to the child. So
yeah, that's definitely.
But at the same time, you know, you've got to make that decision, but you can feel quite uneasy about it. I'm really interested in writing about grey areas, I think.
Yeah.
And things aren't clear-cut in life, are they? So I think that...
No, definitely not. And I think it was interesting how the Friends group sort of treated her because of the decisions that she made, even the one that was a teacher, because, as you say, it would be something that you just had to do, regardless of whether it was, you know, whether it was your friend or not. But yeah, it was. I thought that was really clever, and I liked that a bit.
The Big Little Lies type bit.
Yeah, yeah. Did you what sort of, apart from the fact that you wanted to write about a stronger, a professional woman, was there anything about the maternal part of it? Because obviously you've got children, I've had children. That sort of isolation that you feel when they're newborn, and when I had 3. So was that part of it? Was that something that you wanted to bring in from your own experience, or just?
So I think this. So one of the germs of it was my husband having come home and having to make a safeguarding decision. But the real heart of it, I suppose, is after I had my second baby, I experienced postnatal anxiety, and I had this sort of perfect storm of bad circumstances. Really, I had a problem in my second pregnancy that meant I couldn't walk through night and week. And then at 30 weeks, we moved to Cambridgeshire for my husband's job. So I was suddenly sort of marooned with a toddler, a newborn baby. I'd left my support system in London. I had my sister there, and obviously it's easier to get to Devon if you jump on the train at Paddington, and easier for my mum. And suddenly I was renting without any people I knew, without my childminder, with 2 small children, and I'd also given up my job. So I was a journalist in the Guardian for 11 years, and and before that I was at something called the Press Association. So since I was 23, I'd kind of been validated by being a journalist and having my name on stories, and I practically wasn't possible for me with hardly able to walk to commute to London. What I was earning wasn't going to pay for childcare and travel, even if I could get a nanny who would do all those hours. It just wasn't financially possible. And so I took voluntary redundancy, and so suddenly all the things that had made me Sarah had kind of appeared. Yeah. And I was at home with a 3-year-old and a baby, and in a lot of chronic pain, and separated from everybody. My mum's probably crying just watching this. Just one of those life circumstances. And also, as a journalist, I had unfortunately had this bad sort of niche as they jokingly call me the sort of paedophile correspondent. I mean, I had done, because I was sort of nice and empathetic and non-threatening, I did a lot of cases that involved the murder or disappearance of children. So I did the case. Wow, that's a tough job. Yeah, Sarah Vaughan, who went disappearing. Oh, yeah. And I did the Soham murders. Wow. That was my introduction to Cambridgeshire, being in Soham for 10 days. And then I started covering the trial, the arraignment, the first court proceeding with Ian Huntley. And so I had this really over-exaggerated sense of risk when it came to children. And because I knew that Sarah Vaughan had been snatched from a cornfield when she'd run through it, being chased by her brother, and a white van just happened to be driving past because he'd been watching through the hedges, and he, zoomed round and picked her up and scooped her up. Whenever my very bright 3-year-old would scoot off on her scooter out of sight, which a 3-year-old can do really fast if you're pushing a pram and you can't run because she can barely walk very well. And I would know that there'd be a lay-by, or round the corner there could be a man in a white van who could pick her up and scoot off. I had all these really awful, catastrophizing thoughts, and I didn't have maternal OCD, or not to the degree that my character does. No, I didn't have it. I was never diagnosed with it. But I had these sort of very scary thoughts. It didn't take a very big leap of imagination to imagine what would it be like if you were constantly being bombarded with this sense of risk, imagining your baby and yourself were under threat all the time. So it was a really interesting. I didn't think it was interesting at the time. I thought it was horrible, but it was an interesting time. It gave me some insight into how precarious, I suppose, postnatal mental. Yeah, and I think as well, it's. I mean, there's more. When my children, my youngest is 16, so when mine were younger, it wasn't even really talked about. It's talked about a lot more now, but it wasn't even really mentioned. And I have anxiety after my second one, and it was just sort of, people used to call it the baby blues. And you think, well, yeah, but that's, it's that guilt, isn't it, about you shouldn't feel like that, and you should be really happy. And Jess, I think, sort of feels that, doesn't she, in the book, that she sort of feels all those sort of conflicting feelings about what she should be feeling, and she's not. Absolutely. And I think also, it was although the opening to the child screaming with colic was inspired by my first child who had colic. I got those as well. This happened with my second child, and I thought, well, I'm sure you did as well. Well, I've done this before. I could do it before. That should be right. And Jess, it's her third child, so she's got an 8-year-old, and then she's got this 10-month-old baby, and who's this girl who's supposed to sort of complete their family, and something that she really wanted. And what happens with Jess is she has quite a traumatic birth. We don't have loads of detail of that, but we know a little bit about how she planned to have this sort of home birth because she's already had 2 babies, and then giving birth's quite unpredictable and dramatic, isn't it? Yeah. Can be. and so it goes a bit wrong. And she's somebody who is quite controlled, very perfectionist. She looks very perfect. She's even got good hair, and her house is immaculate, you know. And then birth can be very feel like something quite uncontrolled, and suddenly she's not in control, and the doctor everything's fine, but apparently this is often a trigger for maternal OCD, that if you've had a traumatic birth and you feel and you're quite controlling and you have this sort of life event that's very out of control, it can trigger this completely sort of discombobulating,
sort of irrational sort of thoughts.
Yeah, exactly. Irrational thoughts sort of come in. Yeah. I should say that it's all good in the end. It's all fine in the end.
Yeah. I need a couple of messages I've got to say. Joey Lee is online and says, great to hear you, Sarah.
Oh, she's a childhood friend. I did.
And I think she said, Emily's saying my mum is watching. I assume that's her mum, not your mum. So I don't know. She might verify that in a minute. But if Sarah's mum is watching, hello, Sarah's mum. Did you, sorry, I'm just turning over my sheet of questions. So it is, and like you say, it all does come right in the end. There are bits in it that are quite difficult to read, aren't there? That, you know, there are quite, I do think those sort of domestic noir thrillery sort of things, I think they're people like to read that. It's almost like you don't want to read it, but you do want to read it. Do you like writing that sort of thing? Do you sort of think?
I think it's probably my darkest book.
Yeah.
Having said that, I'm now writing a book with a murder in it, but it's a murder of a tabloid journalist, so we don't really care about that, do we? As well? A man as well. And we don't get to know him as much. And I'm not going to go, I don't think I'm going to write about children again. Or not. No. I am writing about a 14-year-old, but, not little children. I'm not going to write about. I think that the thing about crime novels and psychological thrillers is they allow you to explore the darkness that there is in life, but within a environment. So, the sort of traditional Christian novel that concludes allows that resolution. And I think that suspense novels don't always allow that. I mean, originally I didn't have the final chapter with this, and I was told by my editor agent that it needed more resolution, more conclusion. I couldn't leave readers feeling quite as bleak as I wanted to. And the same thing happened with actually. I had to sort of, have a slightly more positive ending. So I think people do want that resolution, yes. But I think that I think we are interested in exploring.
Definitely,
vicariously. And what I wonder whether this is, I hope, that this allows that it sort of validates people or reassures people, so that there may be people reading it who think, oh gosh, I felt like that as well, and thank goodness this was really. I've certainly found from messages I've had, people have said, God, that's exactly what I experienced. And I've actually had a message from someone I know in real life saying, thank you, I didn't know there was a name for what I experienced.
Really, yeah.
On the maternity website, I've just told my husband. I would never have been able to do that if you hadn't written this, which is amazing. And I had anatomy as well. I had a few messages from women who'd been complainants in rape trials, who said that I'd reflected their experience. So that's the best thing you could hope for, really, as an author. But I think that also maybe in reading it, I hope that people might be reassured that they're not quite as bad mothers as the mothers in the book. So you might think, well, there's times of my experience, but I'm not that bad.
No, I think that you can always make it slightly worse, can't you, in a book? So you end up coming away maybe feeling that maybe you weren't such a bad mother, or what you thought wasn't quite so bad. So, and I think it's people enjoy. It's a weird thing to say escapism, but reading about other people's sort of dark things does seem to be really, some of the books that I've read recently about there's a few about children going missing and things like that, and you think when you start reading it, you think I wouldn't really want to read that, but actually I think enjoy is the wrong word.
I want lockdown started, I thought that maybe people would only want to. I mean, I have to say I couldn't write a book people said to me after term, surely you write about abducted little girls, and I couldn't ever write about a sex crime with children or a murder of children. So despite having written this book, it's not that sort of book. No. I've lost my train of thought. What was I saying? Sorry, I was saying I couldn't write about murder. Oh yes, when lockdown started, I thought maybe people would only be interested in sort of romantic reads, and I don't mean that dismissively, but sort of, you know, one set
sort of escapism and something.
Cornish coves and tea shops, and you know, I don't mean at all, but you know, really sort of more light-hearted. Now branded it, hasn't it? But I think actually people also want compelling stories and immersive stories, and they want stories with twists and pace, and a story that pulls you along and involves you with the characters, and that the characters feel real and realistic, and you empathise with them. So hopefully that sort of, those criteria cover lots of different books, don't they? Hopefully.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I like that about your book, is that I liked the character, and I liked the sort of the friendship and how the friendship grows from, you know, their sort of first meeting at antenatal, but then you sort of experience the sort of other lives of the other characters. So like you find out about Liz's childhood and you know, sort of things. You do actually get to, they're really quite deep, the characters. They're not sort of just, you know, you get to know them quite well, and I like that in the book, that you can, you know, that you actually get to feel that you know them rather than them just being there on the page.
And hopefully that's the sort of immersive thing that makes you want to pick up the book again, and you know, have some sort of escapism away from worrying about, you know, have I washed my hands properly coming back, or you know, how am I going to homeschool my children, you know, or how, you know, or is there enough food, you know, or what's happening with furloughing, or you know, all these other things that people are having to think about at the moment, or you know,
just something else. I've got another message to say Laura Tennant is also watching, and says lovely to see you, Sarah.
That's my
Sorry,
that's my sister.
Ah, hello, Sarah's sister.
They were really good friends, so they're online together. That's nice.
That's nice. Yes, so you were saying. So I was saying before we went online that we've got that we have ordered lots of copies of hardbacks for Devon libraries when we come back to when the libraries are reopened again, and we do also have it available on our Libby app that you can download, which are our ebooks. And I think we've also we've definitely got copies of Anatomy of a Scandal on there as well. Did you want to say anything about that book, or did you?
Yeah. So this was my first. In fact, I think you've got all of my books. So you.
I think we have. We definitely have.
Covers, and you can see how I changed. I just my first book, sorry, looked like that.
I was going to say we had one that was pink. Did it have a pink hardback?
Hardback would be pink. Hardback was pink. And they've re-jacketed my one set in Cornwall to make it look like Anatomy.
Ah.
You might have had it with a... Sorry. You might have had it looking like that.
Yes, we did.
So those two books were more women's fiction for a reading group market. So The Farm is a time slip novel with a story in Cornwall in the Second World War, and The Art of Baking Blind is a novel ostensibly about a baking competition, but really it's about motherhood again. It was my first novel, and the impossibility of perfection. And then Anatomy was a real change from that, and this is the one that was an international bestseller. It sold in I think it's sold in 22 languages. And there's going to be a TV series, which is very exciting.
Is it? Oh wow!
Yeah, except that everything's obviously been delayed because of
Was it a Richard and Judy? Was it
Richard and Judy? So that's and that made a big difference. So that is partly a psychological thriller. It's partly a courtroom drama, and it's partly a portrait of marriage, and it's about power, privilege, and consent, and it details what happens when a very charismatic Tory junior minister is accused of raping a parliamentary researcher with whom he's been having an affair in a lift at the heart of the House of Commons. And the funny thing was, I sold it a whole year before the Harvey Weinstein and Pestminster, Sexminster, whatever you want to call it, allegations broke. So I sold it at the start of October 2016, and that all happened in October 2017. So I didn't know, and it's partly inspired my experience as a political correspondent on The Guardian, and partly because I had really good shorthand, so I did lots of court cases like the start of CERN, but the murder of Sarah Vaughan were writing, and partly by my time as a in Oxford, because there's a sort of backstory in the 90s. Yeah. So that was actually quite a quick book to write, because I had experience already. It was the quickest book to write, and I really love writing it. And it was actually the book I wanted to write as my second novel. Yeah. But my at the time, who were different publishers, said it's a big jump to go from a book about baking to a book about scent. So fair enough. But I loved writing my Cornish novel, and I learned a lot writing there.
And I think I loved Anatomy. I thought it was a great book. It was I just had so much with it, and I love the twist, and it's definitely one of my favourites. And
the one I'm writing at the moment is I missed writing the court scene. So I haven't sold the new one yet, but I spent 2 weeks watching a murder trial at Luton Crown Court, and I'm writing another high-profile woman that she's going to be accused of murder. So I'm going to have court scenes in that as well. So and I'm sort of really enjoying writing that. Finally getting back into it. So I'm
I think that's another thing that's been quite difficult seeing on Twitter, is all the writers trying to get into writing when it's just so difficult. And I know we're difficult working, but you've got all the distractions, haven't you, of having to homeschool and not being able to go out of the house, and just that sort of mindset of being.
Yeah, my husband was off today, so I actually managed to sit for hours and not. I did homeschooling, a bit of homeschooling this morning, but not. And it was like wading through mud. It was like wading through Devon. But I did think, actually, I've just got to show up to. And I put a freedom app on my computer so that I couldn't look on Twitter, and I've stopped. At the beginning, I was constantly looking at the Guardian rolling blog of how many deaths, and it became like a sort of obsession, really. And
I think a lot of people have said that, haven't they?
Yeah, and you were checking how many there were in your area, weren't you, and things like that.
Yeah.
So
you're on a 5-minute warning. Sorry, it's gone so quickly. I've also got to say to Pam Drysdale said she loves The Little Disasters, and thank you so much for a brilliant read, and we will be discussing it at their book club.
That's Auntie, but she's not my aunt, but she's a friend of my mum's.
Oh, bless. Oh, that's nice. Well, I think there's definitely a lot to talk about with book group. I think it will be one that we'll definitely be seeing going out for book groups, and hopefully then, when will the paperback come out?
I think that'll be a year. I think that'll be. I don't know. I guess they might do it in January. I guess none of us know, do we?
No. Well, a lot of the publishers aren't working, are they, at the moment? A lot of them are
furloughed. Yeah, mine's still. They're all doing it from home, and obviously hardback sales aren't going to be very good because you can't physically go and buy them. So I don't know, that maybe they'll want to get the paperback out earlier. I don't know. There is actually a book club in Little Disasters, and they read Jane Eyre.
They do, yes. They didn't like Mr. Rochester, did they?
Yeah. So because of the sort of, I think the Madam in the Attic is such a resonant trope in literature. In fact, I read English, and I remember there's actually a seminal textbook called The Madam in the Attic about representations of women in Victorian fiction. But a strong part of the book.
I love Jane Eyre. It's one of my favourite. Probably my favourite book. But I think Mr. Rochester is not. It's a bit like Heathcliff, isn't it? He's a bit of a strange character.
It's a bit like. I read Rebecca at 13, and then I read it at 39. And he's called the husband in Rebecca, but your attitude completely changes, I think, as an adult.
Yeah.
Ned, or is it?
Is it De Winter, Mr. De Winter? I don't know what his first name is. I can't think of.
Max.
Max, that's it, Max, yeah. Yeah, I think it is. I think you do see things with different perspectives, don't you? It's probably that sort of romantic, yeah, I mean, I think it's yeah, you do definitely change as you read books. I think that's why sometimes they say don't go back to them, because you might not enjoy them the second time or third time or fifth time. I'm going to say thank you, because I don't know when we might get cut off. Sometimes it just goes. But thank you so much for coming along. It's been great to talk to you, and I hope that when we're back in the building again, that you'll come along and see us.
Well, I just say I love Exeter Library, and it's one of the many reasons I wish I lived in Devon, because I did so much. I think I've said on Twitter, I did so much A-level and uni revision there, and I've edited bits of all my books there, and I just think it's such an amazing. When I was working there last time, I thought it's such an amazing resource. You've got people who clearly might be homeless or haven't really got anywhere to go, and it's a hub, isn't it? It's somewhere that they can
definitely, and I think it's it's being greatly missed at the moment by all of us and all of our public.
Yeah. Well, long may it be I mean, I think it's a real flagship library.
Thank you. Yeah, I know. Well, I hope you get to come down to Devon.
Well, we're planning to come down in August. I'm really hoping we're going to be able to come and hug my mum and see.
Yeah. Well, I hope you get to do that, because it's and whether the library will be open in August, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, but if it is open, pop in and see us. Yeah, we'd love to see you again. And thank you so much for coming along.
We'll do a proper event, a proper non-virtual one.
Yes. Well, I hope the book sales continue to go well, and the writing goes well as well. So thank you for coming along.
I hope they can borrow it through your Libby app.
Yeah, if you can definitely put a reservation on there for that. And as I say, when we're open, there's lots of copies that people can that you can order, so you can get your reservation in as soon as they're back online again. I don't know how long we've got. If there's any more questions, I don't know. We're probably going to disappear.
People are book club. There are book club questions on my website. So,
right, book club questions on the website. Great. Yes, if you haven't got a book club, yes. Emily is saying, say goodbye. So goodbye. Thank you for everybody for coming. Thank you. Bye.